Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, whatever time of day, wherever you're listening to this. Welcome to the Housing Sector Podcast. More of an update one, a little bit of news to keep things moving on, to keep you updated about where we are. Going to cover something from the Housing Ombudsman, going to talk a little bit about slaps, going to talk about some investigations we've got going on with regards again to that council tax, housing benefit money, etc. All that and more on this episode of the Housing Sector Podcast.
Housing Sector, one take, raw, unedited, unfiltered. Housing Sector, where honest conversations about housing happen.
Okay, first up, we have the Housing Ombudsman. I have had an update from the Housing Ombudsman, and that update is someone has been assigned to the case and they are going to start working through it. However, it could be 6 months, it could be 12 months, it could be longer. And that I'm not going to start calling out the Housing Ombudsman for this, but when investigations take a long time, it unintentionally gives housing associations a very convenient line of defence. They can simply say, look, these issues are old school. They were being dealt with a year ago. This investigation's historic. We've new procedures in place with better practices. And we know this to be true because it was the same excuse that my own landlord, Green Square Accord, Roof Cook gave last time. You know, when they had a special investigation by the Housing Ombudsman, they said, yeah, all of these are old. They were part of the merger. We're much better since then. And yet the same issues are now appearing. But of course, that gestation time that it will take is 12 months. 12 months is going to be 12 months. By the time it's already been, I think I sent it across early January or late last year. So it's already been with them at least 3 or 4 months. Following the Money is my latest blog. These blogs are getting a lot of traffic. We're also on Substack now. And I'm able to sort of reshare some of the historic stuff to give it a fresh pair of eyes, and that's doing well. The latest one is Following Money. This one looks at how public money is again funneled through the housing system. The route's actually quite simple. You know, money starts with taxpayers' money from central government, goes to councils through housing benefit, as ultimately flows to housing associations through rent and eligible service charges. Now, I've already said there's some problems with this. There's no government oversight. There's no council oversight. They just pay the money willy-nilly. Willy-nilly or willy-nilly, you decide. So to understand the scale of that, I submitted the Freedom of Information request to councils, and so far 12 councils responded, and 3 of those responses tell quite an interesting story on their own. Birmingham confirms that more than 42 million in housing benefit has been paid to Green Square Accord over the past 3 years. Walsall confirmed just over 18 million on the same period. So you've got 2 neighbouring councils. We can already identify that more than 60 million in public money connected to just one housing association in 3 years. And one housing association, dare we suggest, that has at best a very patchy history. But the third council tells a completely different story. This is Wiltshire Council, where again, I've chosen these areas that Green Square Accord has quite a strong foothold. So Wiltshire Council says can't retrieve the figures at all. They don't really know. It's too much hard work. We wouldn't. It would take going through hundreds of thousands of emails, and we just don't have the time. So, in other words, Birmingham and Walsall can identify tens of millions of pounds in payments linked to Green Square Accord, while Wiltshire say it cannot locate the figure. It doesn't know, and this raises a very obvious question about transparency and oversight. Now, there is also a small detail about the Birmingham figures that illustrates how we approach things here at the housing sector. When Birmingham first shared the figures with me, I published them on LinkedIn, and it was just over 41 or 42 million. I published them. And then when I came to write up the full report, I realized that the document they'd sent me was password protected and on a 7-day password. Of course, I hadn't downloaded it. I'd done it all from my phone while I was out at work, out in the field, on my mobile phone. I uploaded it to LinkedIn. Then, of course, I couldn't find the exact figures. And then that worried me because I thought, hang on a minute. Have I just confused this figure? That seems awfully high. At that point, I'd worked out it was about 41 million going to Green Square Accord, and then Birmingham was 42 million. So I removed that link. I instantly took that down from LinkedIn and went back to Birmingham City Council and said, can you give me fresh time on this link, which they've done, and now I can be sure of those figures. Because I've got to be honest and I've got to be transparent. And when I publish numbers, there can't be any doubt. It's important to add, and we're going to come on to this a bit later, and certainly later on during the week. I'm have to be honest. Green Square Accord, who have come after me legally, they've never come after me for slander or libel, and that's because we're true, we're honest, and we're transparent. Okay, so look, there's that one that's going live. We're also looking in this story. We're saying, well, hang on a minute. You've got all this money coming in. Councils aren't protecting the budget. They don't question it. Why is that? Why are MPs so reluctant to? And of course, that goes on to your likes of Eddie Hughes, who was housing minister. And this is all in the blog, so I'm not going to give it away here. Who then go and get these cushy little jobs afterwards, these consultancy roles. And that comes into Shaq's golden web. That thing, well, hang on a minute, you're too incestuous, you're too linked. MPs, councillors, oh, look, money comes in, it's a good thing, it's housing benefit, it's supporting people in homes. It's a huge chunk of change that no one's challenging, no one's looking after. And then, of course, when scrutiny matters, it's going to take, as we said, the Housing Ombudsman, it'll be nearly 2 years by the time anything's resolved from it. Green Square Accord are bound to push back, and it goes on and on and on. So there's no instant satisfaction. You can't go, look, this is wrong, I need it fixed now. That's not going to happen. In the meantime, taxpayers are paying all this money. So, things have to be streamlined, things have to be transparent, and they're not. Continuing on the service charge theme, I am in the midst of compiling a third-tier tribunal. Green Square Accord have now come back 4 times. There was a mistake in they double dipped in one of them. They took money from the sinking fund as well as charging it to residents. Obviously, they've had to take that out of their mouths. They charged for a fee that had been actually charged last year, so they shouldn't have charged it. It means they're just rolling out the same figures again. But when they investigated, when I did the Section 22, that was late. When I did Section 22, and they now investigated it, and they said, oh, actually, there was a mistake there. You actually paid for that last year. So that's been removed. They've also now admitted, well, we didn't provide you with all the gardening and the guy that comes around with his hoover, all the cleaning and the garden, the ground maintenance. We didn't do all of the visits that we should do. So there's a bit of a refund on that. And then the latest one was they'd rounded up. You'd think I'd be prepared for this. They rounded up the figure to 0.1%, and it should have been 0.5, so they had to do that. Basically, without going into all the detail here, because it's going to be covered on the housing sector website and on my Green Square Accord resident support site, basically, through asking, can you have a look at these figures, or I want to see these figures, and through the process of them getting them ready, they found a saving of 30%. They have reduced our service charge amount by 30%, which it's still not affordable to many, but it's a start in the right direction. Now imagine if councils were doing the same checks, just interrogating the figures a little bit. That 30% is a huge figure, assuming that the mistakes are. And I think they are. They're just, they're mistakes they're rattled off. Oh, we did that last year. Oh, right. Yeah. Well, no, we didn't actually turn up that many times. As soon as any attention comes onto it, they find the mistakes. So now we're going to go through the third-tier tribunal. Now, I have said to my other neighbours, look, guys, I'm used to going to court. I'm used to doing this thing. Let's do it. And what I like to do here, as I hope I've done with some of the SLAPS process, strategic lawsuits against public participation, and by setting up the resident support site, is it shouldn't be difficult. A route to justice, a route to clear math, clear charges. It shouldn't be difficult. So again, I'm going to be sorting out, and I'm sorry this takes me so long to get round to doing. I will have on the website, on the housing sector website, and a Green Square Accord resident support site, Section 22 letters that you can copy and paste, that you can download, and I will be sharing with you the processes as we go, so you know what to expect from the first-tier tribunal process. I think I said third-tier, right? First-tier tribunal process. And in that way, you can follow in my footsteps to get accountability from your own landlord. And certainly if you're a Green Square Accord resident, then that will all be on the Green Square Accord resident support site. And you can follow that through step by step. So over the coming weeks, we'll start publishing the documents involved in that process, including the Section 22, and you can, request that detailed charging information from your own landlord. Because, if residents across the country start asking the same question, the numbers will finally start to get the scrutiny they deserve. And before I finish, a couple of housekeeping points. Housing sector is now on Substack, so people can follow updates there as well as on the website. I am recycling some of the older blogs, so giving them a fresh audience. That's doing well. Most of the podcast recordings happen on a Sunday morning, as we are today, simply because I work full time during the week. Interviews can be arranged at other times with notice, and we're working around. But Sunday mornings are usually when these updates get recorded. I'll be honest with you, I get to Friday night, I might go out with some friends, but usually it's a quiet night. And Saturday, as me and the wife did yesterday, it's a day of lounging around, catching up with each other, spending some time watching some crap on television, resetting the brain. Then Sunday morning, she's out at the gym. I'm now here recording all of this. So because I'm working full time to fund this platform remains completely independent. There is no one telling me what I can and can't say. There is no one going, oh, that's a bit of an uncomfortable truth that we'd rather you didn't discuss. I am not Tapas. I am not Chartered Institute of Housing. I'm not even National Housing Federation. None of those things, because, and I'm not even working with a small training company that wants to get their PO signed. Remember, this is independent, an independent platform. And the reason I'm independent is because I'm not going to play the bullshit game. There is so much of that out there with that fake PR, that fake headline grabbing stuff. We're doing so well, aren't we? Great. No, the truth is we're falling far short. And if you want to be part of this honest conversation, why not? Why not join the Housing Sector website? Why not subscribe to the channels? Why not share and like? So far, the Housing Sector website alone, I've got some figures here, has seen more than 9,000 visits. We're on March the 15th. 9,000 visits with over 18,000 unique visitors and around 14,000 page views. In the last 30 days alone, we've had around 3,300 visits. So the readership is there and it continues to grow. Finally, there's also developments happening around some of the issues of the legal pressure being used against journalists and campaigners. That's happening, and I've been fortunate or unfortunate to get caught up in that. I'm not going to detail yet because keep your powders dry, don't show your cards. But there will be an update throughout the week, later towards the end of the week, and next weekend. It'll be going out next weekend. So if you want to understand the investigation of how public money flows through the housing system, head over to housingsector.co.uk and read the latest blog, as well as the taxpayer's burden, an older one. If you want to follow the tribunal process and learn how to challenge service charges yourself and make sure you like, subscribe, follow the channel, please share it with others. And over the coming weeks, we'll show exactly how that process works. Process works. Teeth in pen. Look, that's it, guys. Remember, I'm asking the honest questions and showing the honesty because someone has to. My name's Ben Jenkins. This is the Housing Sector. It's entirely self-funded. It's entirely self-run. I'm the only one here who decides what gets shared and what doesn't. And we don't play that game of, joining in the little niches and telling people how it is. We tell people how it really is. And if you want to be part of that for wider change, for greater change, then please support the platform. In the meantime, have a great week. Thank you, everyone, indeed. God bless you all. Take care. Catch up with you next time.
Housing Sector. Honest conversations about housing. Follow the channels and visit housingsector.co.uk.